Hey everyone, what's up? This is Frank for Fedgelite Graphics, and this tutorial I'm going to call Expansion. The reason why somebody asked me, looked at my recent artwork, and then I got a message on Facebook basically asking me if I kind of expanded my artwork a little bit as far as 3D animation goes. And actually I have. I used to render everything pretty much in 3ds Max, and now I figured out there had to have been like a faster way of doing things, like a faster workflow of getting things accomplished, because as far as 3ds Max goes, the more objects and backgrounds you put into it, the longer it takes to render as far as quality and everything else. So it turns out I've looked kind of into the history a little bit, and it used to be back in the day companies like Pixar would have these huge super servers and stuff like that that helped boost the speed of their computers and render their graphics and everything. Today that is not the case. We have the same amount of speed, if not faster, in the newer, more advanced computers today, just the regular desktop computers. So, since I've been asked, I'm going to show you basically how I accomplished that. I am in a program right now called Adobe After Effects. It is basically what you call a video compositing program. I used to use the Autodesk product Combustion, but I looked into Adobe After Effects and studied a little bit and found out that it has all of the same tools that Combustion does, if not a little bit more. The only difference is the Adobe After Effects interface is easier to work with. In other words, the tools are a lot less complicated for you to use. Any beginner can pretty much do anything they want to. The cool thing about it is it also renders in 3D real time, so you can render out graphics on, let's say, 3ds Max as elements and put it into Adobe After Effects and sort of create, a faster elemental way of working. I don't know if that makes sense to any of you, but today I'm going to go ahead and give you a little example of that. Let's start out with, let's say I'm going to load a 3D composite, and this is going to be what I like to call a UFO. I actually rendered this out in 3ds Max, animated it so that it's spinning, and then had a camera zoom from the top portion of the object to the bottom, just so it kind of looks like it's sort of swooping down in a funky little animation from the sky, kind of thing. I didn't get too technical with it, only because this is a tutorial. So, well, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to load some live action footage. It's basically a city scene, and that's going to end up putting it right on top of the UFO, and that's because the layers down here are set to basically any layer on top of another is set to automatically overlap any object on that layer. So if you want basically the ship to be on top of the background as the foreground from the video, then the city scene has to be on the bottom and the ship has to be on top. Easier. Just like that, you already have a 3D object behind a regular video in no time at all. Right now I'm going to go ahead and shut off the view of the ship layer and just kind of work on the video a little bit. Zoomed out 50%. I'm going to kind of zoom down a little bit. Just kind of bring that down. sort of position it, give it a little bit more straight, and I'm going to go ahead and zoom back in, and then we turn back on our SIP layer. I'm going to go ahead and zoom back out just so I can see everything. Okay, lock the bottom layer so that I'm not messing with it and I'm just messing with the UFO itself. I'm going to go ahead and shrink the UFO. I'm going to place them up in the sky here a little bit, and I think it's got to be a little bit smaller than that, and I may want to have it too high. Okay, so we're zooming back in, and the cool thing about it is that you can animate the position and rotation and everything else that goes along with that. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go into the transfer modes of the ship. I'm going to hit the stopwatch on the position and rotation, or not rotation, but scale. And it automatically sets a couple of keyframes at the first frame. And I'm going to go ahead and scale out to 50 frames about. And I'm going to go ahead and bring them down about halfway, so to speak. And then I want to scale them up, make just a little bit larger. There we go. Okay, and then I want to zoom out to the whole 100 frames. It's just a 100 frame animation. And go ahead and move them out and scale them the rest of the way. And so he just kind of looks like he's coming from the sky and he's swooping down to the street. A quick render preview of that. Okay. So that's basically a simple example. Another thing you can do is probably kind of give it a beginning effect. I'm going to go ahead and maybe stretch out that a little bit so it's not so starting on the first frame, sort of just kind of comes in. You see he kind of just appears, so I actually want to go back into the transform and hit opacity, stopwatch, and I actually want to find the first frame of that animation, and I want to hit the stopwatch on the opacity, scale it down. It creates a keyframe on that frame, so I can come out maybe 5 frames and scale back the opacity to 100 so that we have an animation of it just kind of appearing out of the sky. Kind of looks surreal a little bit, so I'm going to add an extra effect just to kind of sell the idea. I'm going to go into effects, actually layer, solid, and it's going to make a new solid layer, just a color black solid layer. And then you have this nice little effect in the presets called lens flare, and I'm going to pull that out and I'm going to put that on top. I chose black in the color settings so that when I take the transfer mode and set it to screen, that black is now going to become transparent, so it basically just puts the lens flare in the foreground, and we want to position it to where the UFO is going to be, so to speak. And actually, before the UFO appears, I actually want to hit the stopwatch on the brightness, and at the first, actually, I'll wait till I get to the first frame, hit the stopwatch on the flare brightness, and then scale it all the way down. And then probably about here, I'm going to scale it up to really bright not too bright. And I just kind of want to scale it out again and wait till just before it appears out of nowhere and just kind of turns that lens of flare back down. That way we get kind of a little light flash and then it just appears out of nowhere. So within just a few minutes you have a nice little animation of a UFO coming down to a city street, so to speak. Okay, this tutorial does come in 2 parts, so stay tuned for the next part. I'll see you inside 3ds Max. Thank you for watching.